Now we want to begin drafting a simple farmhouse, and for us to be able to do that, we need to import that sketch on our workspace so that we are able to follow and see what we are drafting. So for us to import, we will go to File, External Content, and press External Drawing, and then this pop-up window will appear, and then we will go to place where we've saved our drawing, and that's where we will choose it. Luckily enough, we are there, and then we just choose farmhouse 1, and then we open, and we click, and that drawing will be placed on our desktop. If we want to change the positioning of it, we just click on it. Once it's selected, we just enter Command Control D, and we'll be able to drag it to a new position. Therefore, this is we can zoom in and zoom out in our workplace by use of a mouse roller. We are able to zoom in and zoom out so that you're able to see the details properly. We can also pan using the pan icon at the status bar at the bottom. So we are able to pan from one position to the other, or we can still use zoom out from one point to the other. We can zoom in and zoom out to see the drawing clearly. And this is the simple farmhouse that we want to draft. So the first thing that we need to do is to define the spaces that are given. That is the farm store, the 2 WCs, the urinal, and of course the porch, and then we will put the other details. So for us to be able to define the space, we will select the wall icon, then we'll open up the settings, and then we can see that our wall has a height of 2700 millimeters. I think we can do with that. That is 0 to 2700 millimeters. Again, the wall top is not trimmed. We usually have a number of other options, but for this case we'll pick not trimmed so that we are able to adjust the dimensions if we want the wall to be 3000, so we can adjust that. Again, we want also to pick this parameter, that is structure basic, so that if we want to change the thickness of the wall, we are able to change. Remember, if we are on another type of structure basic component, we will not be able to change the walling, so we need to change to composite or complex profile, and then we'll be able to change the thickness to 200. Again, we also need to look at the reference line. Reference line is the bold line. Either we want it on the outside face, center, or inside face. And for ease of us drawing, and even the walls connecting well, where we have angles, we will choose the center option. I think for now, those are the minimum settings that we can do for walling, so that we are able to start drafting, and then we'll just click OK to ensure that those settings are saved and walling. Then once we've done the settings for the walling, then we will now draft the layout plan of our farmhouse, and we'll start from either of the side. Maybe we can start from left going to the right. So we will click and drag our cursor and spread our cursor to a distance, and it will give us a wall. It will give us a wall that is this starting wall that will define our starting wall, and then we can also do another horizontal wall. Again, you can see the horizontal wall is not straight. If you want to straighten the wall, you hold on the shift key in our keyboard, and that will straighten the wall. If you release the shift key, then you are able to adjust the wall, but once you hold it down, it is maintained in the horizontal plane. So now that we have created the vertical wall and the horizontal wall, now we want to define the space that is in between the wall that we've drawn, which is this one, and the wall that is separating the store and the WCs. And we notice that the first dimension line is giving us the dimension line for the thickness of the wall, the space in between the two walls, that is between the store and the WCs. So therefore we will draw another wall, or we'll copy this wall and drag it to a new position, so that we create another wall there at a distance of 1800 millimeters. But again, of course, we will add the thickness of the wall so that we drag this wall to a maximum dimension of 2000 millimeters. So therefore, for us to be able to create a copy of this wall, we will click on it to select it. Then we will once you right click on an empty space, you go to select move. It gives you more commands. You'll see if you want to drag, the shortcut for drag is Control D, rotate is Control E, mirror is Control M, then elevate is Control 9, drag a copy, Control Shift D. And for us, we want to drag a copy, so we'll either click on this command, or we can hold the keys on our keyboard. That is Control, you hold it down, then you add Shift and hold it down, and then you add D, and then you release, and that command will have been executed. So we will click that command, and then this is the symbol that will indicate that our cursor is engaged with the drag a copy command. And then once we have entered that command, we will click on the wall, and then we will drag it to a new position. And remember, for us, we want to drag it, we will enter dimension 2000 millimeters. That is the space in between the two walls, which is 1800 plus the thickness of the wall. That gives us 2000 millimeters. So for us to be able to enter that dimension, we will on our keyboard we will enter command for entering dimension, that is Shift R, and you'll find that the distance in our cursor is highlighted, and then we can type directly 2000 and then we enter, and that wall is placed at a distance of 1800 millimeters from the first one. Then we do the same to the wall that is defining now the space for farmhouse, which is we have from this wall to this wall we have a dimension of 3100. So we will include the 200, so we will drag this wall to a new position to a distance of 3300 millimeters. Therefore, again, we right click and pick the command for drag a copy. We right click on an empty space, but first of all you have to select the wall that you want to drag to a new place. Then you click on an empty space, go to select move, then drag a copy, then you come and click on the copy that you've already selected, and then you displace it a little bit. Then you enter command for entering the dimension, that is Shift R, and then we put dimension 3300. So we've already now done the two walls that are defining the spaces horizontally. Now we need to do the other walls that are defining the space vertically. And we already have the first wall, and we know now from the first wall to the next one is 500 in between, so we will do a dimension of 700. So we'll select this wall, again right click on an empty space, move, then drag a copy. We click on that copy and displace it a little bit, then we type Shift R, then we enter 700 because that is our dimension. Then we do the same to the wall that is defining the washrooms. This is 1300, the other one is 1050. So this one we will drag 1300 plus a wall that has 100 millimeters, so that will come to 1400. So we drag this copy again, we already selected it, right click, move, drag a copy, then shift radius 1400. But again we know that this wall has a thickness of 200, whereas the wall that we've been given here has a thickness of 100 millimeters. So we need to change this wall, the thickness of this wall, to 100. So in the information box, if you roll your cursor, you are able to see quite a number of details. So, and you can see the thickness here, so you can change that to 100 millimeters, and you'll see that it changes to 100 millimeters. Then we need to check whether this distance is 1300, and for us to be able to dimension this space and see whether we've achieved the correct dimension, we will pick the dimension tool, and then we will hover over the first wall and click on that wall, and the second wall, and then we will double click on an empty space, and then we click again, and that will give us, that shows that we have 1250 millimeters, but we wanted to achieve 1300. So it means that we need to drag this wall to a dimension of 50 millimeters, so as we are able to achieve 1300. So for us to drag that wall, this wall, we will select it, but now you can see our cursor is engaged. Even if we click on the wall, it will not be able to select. It still has the dimension command, so we can just right click and cancel. But for us to disengage the cursor, we will click on arrow, and our cursor will be free, so that we can now be able to select this wall, and then we enter the command for dragging. Again, we said move. The command for dragging is Control D, so we can either use the cursor and click on drag, and then or we can use the keys and press Control D. But we've already clicked the command, so we need now to click on the wall, displace it a little bit, and then put the command for entering dimensions, that is Shift R, then we put 50, and then now we have achieved 1300 millimeters. So again, you'll notice that our dimensions are in meters, so we need to convert the workspace to millimeters. So what we will need to do is to go to options, then we go to project preference, and then click on dimension, and we can see that the units are in meters, so we need to change that into millimeters, decimal point 0, and then we just click OK, and you'll notice that everything changes to millimeters. So we've already defined the space between the first WC, then we do the same to the second WC, which has a distance of 1050 in between. So 1050, then we add 100, then we add 100 for the walling, and that will give us 1150. So we need to drag this wall to a distance of 1150. Again, we can use the command, the shortcut, that is Ctrl+Shift+D, or we can right click on an empty space, then move and drag a copy. Then we click on the wall, displace it, and then enter Shift+R. Then we define put the dimension, that is 1150, and then we enter. Again, we can still check whether we've been able to achieve that the correct dimension. Pick the dimension tool, then we hover over that wall and click on it. Do the same on this other one, then double click, click again, and that will give us 1050. So that is the correct dimension because we wanted 1050. Then we do the same to the urinal, where we still need 1050, but now the wall changes to 200. So we drag a copy of this wall, Ctrl+Shift+D, or drag a copy, then we displace it, Shift+R, 1150, we enter. We can confirm the dimension, but before we confirm, we need to change this to again 200. Let us confirm the dimension because we know it has been distorted by the change of the thickness of the. I've picked the wrong icon, that is level. We don't want to put the level, we want to dimension. So I will undo and pick on dimension. Then I will click on that wall and click on that wall, and then I will double click on where I want to put the dimension and then click again, and that gives us 100. So we need to drag this wall to a distance of 50 millimeters. So we will select it. We want now to drag. We don't want to drag a copy, we want to drag. So we will again can use the same wrong method, drag, or use Ctrl+D. So we click on drag, click on that wall, and then displace it a little bit. And then we we do our dimensioning command, Shift+R, then we type 50, enter, and then you can see that the dimension now is correct. There we are. We know that we've already defined the washrooms and the urinal, but we need now to define the rust wall for the building, and we know the distance between this wall and the rust one is 1000 millimeters. So again, we need to drag this copy to a distance of 100 millimeters. Again, we said we need to select it. We disengage the cursor by clicking on the arrow, then we select the wall, and then we do the command for dragging a copy. Drag a copy, displace, click on the wall and displace it a little bit, then shift radius 1200, because we want to achieve an internal dimension of 1000 millimeters. So there we have all the walls that we need. Now we can first of all trim the ones that we are not interested in. For us to be able to trim the wall, we can hold the Control key and hold. We can hold down the Control key and it will give us a scissor sign that will be able to cut the walls that we do not want. We can just hover over the wall and click on every wall that does not form part of what we want to draft. So all those walls are not relevant. Again, at this point, we know we also don't have the walls, so we can cut those two walls. Again, on the farmhouse, the space, again, we don't have walls, we only have the external walls, so we can click on these walls and ideally we'll have that, but of course I've cut a wall that I needed. So we need this wall, because this wall is the one that is defining the farmhouse. The one that we do not want is the outer one. So again, I'll hold the control key down and cut that wall. We do not have this wall, even that one. So again, you'll notice that the wall that has been displaced a little bit is the one, the external wall, the one that is defining the washroom, is the one that has been recessed again by a distance of 500 millimeters. We will recess this wall by 500 millimeters. So again, we can select on that wall and then drag a copy of the same wall. Drag a copy, click on the wall and displace it, then shift radius 500, enter, and then we can now cut the walls that we are not interested in, like this one and this one. And there we have our walls defined as the farmhouse. Then once we have defined our walls, I think we can now delete the dimensions. So we can just when our cursor is disengaged, click on an empty space and then drag over those dimensions we want to delete. Then you can hit your delete key on your keyboard. We can again click on this dimension, and again from the keyboard we can delete it. Then from there we can insert the doors, we can insert the windows. And for us to be able to insert the door, of course, like for this door, we know normally we will pick a door size of 900 millimeters by 2400 millimeters. So we will open our door settings, and we will select the door that we want from this preview box. And for this case, we will select the door that has a fan right above it, and then we can under preview and positioning, we can check the dimensions. Like this one is 900 by 24, which is okay. Again, we can do more settings. We can change the can choose another finish for our door depending with the one that we want. We can also put a handle. Can choose any of the handle. I think for the meantime, those are the minimum dimension settings that you can do, though there are more settings with the frames, with everything that relates to the door. But for the meantime, we can just do those minimum settings. Then we click OK. Then now for us to be able to insert the door for the washrooms, so we'll just come and hover over that wall and then click on it, and it will give us to request us to click on the direction of the door, and this door should open towards that direction. The other one is opening on the opposite direction. So again, we'll hover on the wall, then click and click again. Then we will do the same to the farmhouse. We have a door here. The door is of the same size. We'll click and then we will click again on the direction that we want the door to open. There we are, but again we know that we also have windows. Even though the sizes of the windows have not been specified, but for this case now we can just specify our own sizes. We have a window here, we have another window here, we have another window here. This one is for washroom, is quite different from the rest for the store and the but we'll see how that should come out. So again, we will go to Windows and then open the window settings, and we will pick we can choose basic windows. maybe we can choose that one, which is giving us a dimension of 2000 by 2000 millimeters width, 1500 millimeters wide, and it's roughly about 1 meter from the slab. So again we know that our walling has a height of 27 millimeters, that is inclusive of 2700 millimeters, that is inclusive of the beam. So therefore, if our window is 1500 millimeters high, then it basically means that our beam will generally be about a depth of 300 millimeters, because this is a bungalow, so therefore we'll do a ring beam of 300 millimeters depth. So that means that this distance, this space here, we should be 900, so that if you add the 900, 1500 and the 300 for the beam, should give you a height of 2700 millimeter, which is the headroom of our bungalow. Therefore, once we've done those settings, then we click OK, and then we have a window here. We've not the positioning has not been specified, so we can just position it anywhere there. We have another window here, and we can put another window there. So we need to resize the size of the width of the window, and we can choose 1500. Then we click again on the outer side, so that to indicate that the window is opening on the outer side. We still have another window here, so this is a little bit smaller than 1500, so we can change from our information box, we can change directly to 1000 millimeters, see whether it will fit. So 1000 is still big, so we can choose about 800. That is the width, and then we can click on that wall and click on the outside to indicate that the window is opening to the outside. Then again we have an opening. We have an opening for the urinal. So we need to go to where we have the openings, and openings are under windows again. That's where we have the empty window opening, and for our case we can choose the ellipse top. Click on that ellipse top. We can see it has a width of 1000 millimeters, which is okay, has a height of 1500 millimeter, so we need that height to be a little bit bigger, so that a person can be able to pass through. So we can do 2400, so that the opening goes up to where our beam starts. And then of course this distance here will be 0. Then we click OK, and then we can come and insert our opening at that position. So then we've inserted the windows and the doors. So again we can label the spaces, and for us to be able to label the spaces, we will use the text icon. We'll click on the text icon, and we can see that it's giving us a font known as Arial. You can still use that one. The characters have a height of 3 millimeters. I think that is good for us. We don't need to change it. Again, we've bolded it, so we can label this room as a farmhouse, and therefore we'll just double click and write and type the name farmhouse. So again we can still position it at the middle of at the center of the space. So again we disengage the cursor so that we are able to click on our label, and then again we can drag. So again we can go the wrong method, move, drag. We can position it where we want. Again we can label the other spaces, that is the two WCs and the urinal, the two WCs and the urinal, and of course the porch. So therefore we will again use our text icon. This time we need to change the font a little bit to 2 millimeters, and then we double click on that space and type WC. So there we are, we've already labeled that space. This is another WC, so we don't need to type again. We can select that text, then we drag a copy, again pick the drag a copy command, or directly put using the shortcut Ctrl+Shift+D, we still insert the same command, and then we can drag that label to the next space, simply because the labeling is the same. And for us to be able maybe to maintain it on the same path, we need to hold Shift and we click to the position where we want to label. Again, we need to label the urinal, so again we pick the text icon, the text tool, then we double click and type urinal. Again, you notice that we need to drag the label urinal to a little bit centrally position. So we'll select it, then right click, move, drag a copy. We don't need to drag a copy, so we just cancel. We right click again, move, drag, and then we can drag our label to that position. Then again we also need to label the porch, so we pick the text icon again and type the label porch. So again we can still position it a little bit, so we need again to select it. So again, another way of disengaging the cursor, not fully disengaging the cursor, is to hold Shift down and the cursor becomes free. Then you can select whatever you want to select, but you can see the cursor is still engaged. So but you can still put the command. So we go to move, drag, can drag our label there. Again, we can see that the finish for the flooring is already determined, which is ceramic tile. So I think we will need to do that label again with the text, the same size. You can write the term ceramic tiles. Again, we can change the color for the ceramic tile. For that label, select it, then we choose that color, then we can drag it to various positions. We again do a command, drag, can start with drag, move, drag, and we can position it under farmhouse, under that label. Then we can drag a copy and position it to the other positions. Drag a copy, then we can position it here. Again, we can adjust it a little bit so that it comes into two levels. We can reduce the font size for that label to maybe 1.5, and then we can drag it to various positions. Drag a copy, put it under urinal, can drag a copy again, drag a copy again, there we are. Then I think for this part of video now we can dimension the spaces. We can dimension the spaces by clicking on picking the dimension tool, and then we can click on all the areas that we want to define or to dimension. click on that edge, hover on that wall and click, hover again on that wall and click, and then on the edge or the beside the wall we double click and click again. Then we do the same on this edge, hover on that wall and click, we do the same to that wall, do the same to this wall, then we double click there and click again. So we do the same here, we click on that wall, click on that wall, all those walls that we want to dimension, and then we on this other beside that side double click and click again. Do the same on this side we double click and click again. So you notice that our dimension line has the radio lines that are indicating where the dimension line is being projected from. But if we want to remove these radio lines, what we will do is that we will select all the dimensions, and we can do this by disengaging the cursor. Then we click on the first dimension line. Then for us to add the other dimensions, we need to hold the shift key down, and then we click the other dimension line when we still have pressed the shift key down, and that will enable us to select all the other walls. And then we can now open the settings by clicking on the setting dialog, and then we can see the one that is selected, the witness lines. This is the one that is selected, but we can pick this one so that we do not have the witness lines, and I think that is the only parameter we wanted to change. Then once we say OK, then the witness lines are gone. So that is, we'll go up to that point for the meantime, for the sake of this tutorial. And then in our next tutorial we will proceed from this point, and we'll be able to do a number of other things. We'll be able to do the roof, we'll be able to do the slab, we'll be able to do the tiling symbol for the slab, and again maybe we can indicate we can put the elevation lines and the section line, and again maybe do a number of elevations. So I want to thank you for staying tuned. I want to thank you for being with me in this tutorial. Again, I want to encourage you to leave your comments in our comment section, like our video. Again, we also want to invite you to subscribe to our channel, the Technical Training Channel. Thank you.